Here we have Connor in his natural habitat.
All jokes aside, it took a lot more than people realise to get here. To explain all that, I need to take you back a few years. I was 14 when I watched a film called Never Back Down, and for some reason, it hooked me instantly. This was just a film. This couldn't be real. But I was about to find out that this is real as it gets.
He cannot hold the fence, and McCarthy steps right in. He's got to turn him around. He can't stay up there. Down goes Carlos Newton. He's out. He's out.
And then reality hit me. There was one major difference between me and them. They could stand up. So for the next few years, I buried it, played the UFC games, watched from a distance, and moved on. Yeah, that last bit was a lie. I never moved on. Instead, after repressing it for as long as I could, I decided to study every aspect of MMA and try and figure out how I could do this sport. Find something that played to my strengths. You probably think by now, he's found his lane. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Nah. It wasn't enough. I was training 3 times a week in the gym, making steady and good progress, and once a week Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then they erected a cage, a full-size octagon, and started running MMA classes. I was in. It was fun. I finally got to step into that cage. And I was hooked. So I approached my coach. I wanted to do a fight. And he said to me, it's not advisable at the weight you're at, 90 kilos. So I took that as say no more. And 3 months later, I dropped from 90 kilos to 73. I know exactly what you're thinking, because it was the sentiment at the time. Why would I throw all that progress away just to go and get my head smashed in? Honestly, even today, I still couldn't give you the answer. But if I really think about it, I think I just needed to know if I could do it. So I went back to my coach and I said, right, I'm ready. And I think, well, from my perspective at least, he was astounded that I'd actually done what I said I was going to do. And he said to me, okay, I'll get back to you. And days turned into a couple of weeks, and like a dog with a bone, I, kept asking him every training session. Eventually, he held me back after class one day, and I asked him again, and he looked me in the eye and he said, Connor, they won't sanction it because of your disability. Now, I wish I could tell you that I took this rather well. At face value, I did. And I would have probably taken it a lot better had I have not considered it already a done deal. You see, there were people that were on the card that were not as skilled as me on the mat. And I wasn't exactly a world beater. But you got to remember, this was an amateur promotion. It wasn't hard to get on the card. What I did next is what I've always done when being faced with adversity. Prove people wrong. I didn't know if my coach didn't believe in me. I didn't know who they were that wouldn't sanction it. But I was going to prove them wrong. But it wasn't the smartest move. I was 18 years old and thought I was invincible. And what ensued? definitely didn't do me any favours. An immature mindset, extremely reckless sparring, dangerous sparring, which ultimately led me to this. One of 2 concussions. The next few days were spent feeling sick, aversion to light, and I woke up in a pool of my own blood. I was back in the gym 2 weeks later. Even though the doctor had told me to quit, and my mum as well, I didn't listen. I was young and stupid, like I said. But then, a botched suplex, completely my fault, changed that. And I finally did quit. And I went back to building my body again. As you can see, I did get back into shape. And then I threw it all away again. This is an accurate representation of how my early to mid-20s went. See, I'd been suffering from some mental health issues on and off throughout my life. That wouldn't be diagnosed until late 2023 when I was about 29, and it was found that I was suffering from borderline personality disorder. Quick disclaimer, the condition itself is a trauma-based condition, not a head trauma-based condition. So although I think the concussions definitely wouldn't have helped my mental health, it did not cause the disorder itself. Now this is the part of the video where you're either going to love me or hate me, because this video is extending quite long and I want to keep my content bite-sized and consumable for you guys. So stick around for part 2 where I talk about more positive things, meeting my best friend and coach, and getting back into jiu-jitsu the right way, and where things went from there, and also the KGW logo you saw at the beginning of the video, talking about creating that a few weeks ago and where that's heading.